With one race down, the glimpse at contender for the 70 looking to progress into sim racing stock cars highest level peeks through the Pocono Mountains and Long Pond, Pennsylvania, where we welcome you tonight live to the second race of round 2 in the 2022 eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series from the virtual Pocono Raceway. Our quest for the top 20 in this series continues, and we'll have all the answers for you live here on Podium Esports, where alongside Rachel Whiteford atop Long Pond, Pennsylvania's very own track, my name is Kenneth Bueno. We'll have Simi Award winner Ryan Bauer pushing all the buttons this evening using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Rachel, coming off of what was 2 weeks ago, our first race of round 2, a road course over in Lexington, Ohio, but we go to a track that is an oval at first glance, but really, like we talked about before we went live, it handles like a road course, and you got to treat it like a road course as well.
Yeah, it really does. Unlike a lot of tracks, obviously Pocono, it's an oval, but it's a weird oval, they say. It's 3 corners, okay, unusual. Now, you'd think, okay, it's just one more corner, what's the big deal? Well, I'll tell you what the big deal is. Every single corner here is different. All 3 of them. In fact, they're actually inspired from tracks in other parts of the country. If you know, put those in the chat. Let us know if you know which the corners are actually based on. Because they are 3 distinct corners based from 3 separate tracks. And they drive very differently. Of course, you've got turn 1. It's a big, sweeping, higher banked corner. Then you're into a quick left there at the bottom for turn 2, which is quite a flat corner. But it's quite a right-handed corner. It's quite a right-angle corner. And then you have the big, long, very flat turn 3. So when you get here, you have to actually set your car up for only one of them. There is no Pocono track setup. You're compromising 2 and going good out of 1.
You know, I like to think of the quote that I heard a couple of years back that you can have your car set up for turn 1, but then you'll struggle in turns 2 and turns 3, or you can have it set up for turns 2 or turn 3, but you'll struggle in turn 1. There is always a different element going into play each and every time you make a lap around this Pocono Raceway. It's sort of like a triple-headed beast, as I would call it, and it only plays into what's been a very diverse schedule here for round number 2 as it tests the drivers here as they run for the top 20 to make it into the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series. Let's look at how long we'll go here tonight. We'll go 60 laps, so roughly the same distance as the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series went just a couple of days ago. We'll talk about the details of that and the comparisons here in just a little bit. We go just into 150 miles, just over 240 kilometers. Of course, we do have 3 green-white checkered attempts if we do need them at the end. No fast repairs are given to the drivers, and much like you talked about, Rachel, the setups are going to matter. Open setups here in this eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. And we have seen a lot of drivers, even with Mid-Ohio and even all throughout round 1, drivers toying with the setups and working closely with their teams to get the right dialed setup in to be the fastest. But here at Pocono, I think this is probably going to be the ultimate test of not only the driver, but the setup builder. How diverse can you make this setup to not only work in one corner, but to work all around and also deal with the dirty air and the traffic as well?
Well, you're not. That's the point. You have to hang on in 2 of them. And I think tonight it's going to be difficult because you really want the good speed. 2, you can carry speed relatively well. If I'm setting up a car, or a truck in this case, for Pocono, I'm setting up for 1 or 3. 2 is the compromise that is the easiest to actually succeed with. You can get through it with most truck setups. You really want to basically get the great speed out of 1 or out of 3. Out of 1, you've got the big straight down towards 2, you carry some good compromise speed through 2. It's decent. You set up for 3 though, you've got a great shot across the line and into turn 1. But they've got such different banking, it's the real critical decision there in how that car behaves, and it's not going to like it in either of them.
And so the setups are going to matter here as you take a look at what the times are looking like in qualifying. Drivers putting in their best 2 here to see which drivers will line up on the grid when we wave the green flag here from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. And you can tell a very familiar name into P2, the 95, or the 1 truck in the sim in the session as Parker White, the winner for Mid-Ohio. He took the odd split win. It was Joey Brown who took the even split win at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Parker White leading roughly half of that race. And Rachel, we talk about the run for the top 20, and obviously the entire bigger picture of this top 70 as qualifying winds down. I think with the diverse schedule, I mean, you got to pick and choose which races I feel like you need to be the best at, which races you are more confident in, and for guys like Parker White, Joey Brown, they're basically on their best foot forward when it comes down to the rest of the season. All they can try to do is be as consistent as possible. The rest of the field, if they had a rough race at Mid-Ohio, they're going to have to really get things dialed in for Pocono, because things are going to look very bleak by the time we get halfway through the round and we get to Michigan in a couple of weeks as well.
I think it's the best way to describe it as the oddball round. Round 2. It's definitely more unusual than we've seen from some other ones. And we've got the biggest diversity in racetracks here in round 2. This is what's going to really separate the wheat from the chaff with these drivers. We're going to see who can really muscle a car in this round. Round 1, it's your 1.5 miles. It's your cookie cutters. It's can you go fast in NASCAR? This is can you drive a race car? And it's been good so far. I'm not expecting anything less from Pocono.
Well, we will find out in just a couple of moments. Drivers are lined up behind the iRacing official pace car, so it is our time to take a look through your starting grid and see exactly where every driver will line up here tonight from Long Pond, Pennsylvania, and the virtual Pocono Raceway. Wyatt Tinsley sets the fastest lap in qualifying with a 53.702. He will be the first truck to see the green flag, and you'll have Mid-Ohio winner Parker White to his outside in row number 1. We'll have Brandon McKissick in the 53, or rather in the 17. He will be inside of row number 2. He'll have the number 2 truck of Boyd Hogan to his outside to round out your top 4. Agnell Phillip, we saw a stellar top 3 performance at Mid-Ohio a couple of weeks back. He starts inside top 5 tonight. And round 1 winner from Las Vegas, Santiago Tires, former Coke Series competitor. He is outside in that 3rd row. Logitech Gialtis Esports represented in P7 by Seth DeMerchant in the 3 truck. We didn't see him in the odd split at Mid-Ohio, but he's here in the odd split tonight. He'll have Justin Knobloch to his outside in P number 8 before you find the 13 truck of Omar Diallo and Eddie Ball, Eddie Kerner in the 24 to round out your top 10, Rachel.
P11 tonight is Daniel Forkingham there in 11th on the inside, row 6 on the outside, Daniel Smallwood in that 88 truck. Row number 8 is going to be, as we get that showing up for you on the screen, Kyle Winner. Sorry, that changed 7 even. Jake Nichols on the outside there. My brain is going sideways. Row number 8, Michael Cozy with Garrison Hogan in the 3 truck on his outside. Row number 9, Dalton Collins in the 95 with Daniel Nanny in the 25 truck. Behind them is 36 of Brendan Kolsler and Kevin King in the 29 and 20th.
Look to 21st on back in the rest of the field. AJ Stravato in the 22 lines up 21st. You'll have Dustin Johnson to his outside in P22. Tommy Gossett, Christian Peterson, the 10 and the 19 are the 2 to double up in row number 12 to round out your top 24. It'll be Drew Freenarge in the 5 truck, a high I-rating number there, number 5, but he's going to have to roll deep through the field in 25th. You'll have Matt Forcappa to his outside in 26th. It'll be Colton Salick 27th with Derek Lemke to his outside in 28th before you find former Dirt Pro, and I think continuous Dirt Pro, Alex Bergeron in the 27 truck in 29th. You'll have Connor Horn to his outside in P30, and the final 5 drivers in the field include Thomas Keane, Trevor Perry, Brian Blackford, Ryan Doucette, and the 33 of Tanner Love. A full 35 truck field, of course, with the splits that we do have. All 70 drivers registered here tonight from the virtual Pocono Raceway, so we will have a lot of fun getting things settled and, of course, deciding the points as we move closer to the decision time at the end of round 2 and get our top 20 settled through. We'll take a look at the weather before we just get started. Track temp in the triple digits, 115 in the afternoon here in Sim, and I have to watch out for that. We are basically noon Eastern time at Pocono Raceway in Sim. 75 degrees in the air, winds southwest at about 3 miles per hour. Ready to go green for the second race in round 2. Pace car makes its way down to the long straightaway pit road. It's Wyatt Tinsley, Parker White, row number 1, green flag. We're racing in the 2022 eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series from the Tricky Triangle.
Oh, we're already 3 wide, a little bit further back in the pack there. You can see it deep on the screen. 3 wide into turn 1, lap 1. That seems like a smart idea. We'll see how this plays out, but that's going to be the 6, the 9, and the 12 who well, could have some real fun if that one doesn't shake out right. But it's 3 truck single file at the front, double wide everybody else, triple wide behind them, and they're going to head into turn 2, 3 wide. This is definitely going to be, oh gosh, this looks terrifying. A little bit further back, they've doubled it down, thankfully, but got some trucks very loose there. 25 got sideways coming through too. It looks like, wow, I'm actually genuinely impressed they made it through there 2 wide.
Slick track temp not helping out whatsoever. You saw a couple of trucks kick it out sideways as they fan out for turn 3. Wyatt Tinsley will have the advantage over Parker White in the 1. He will lead lap number 1. And like you said, Rachel, they are indeed are indeed 3 wide, 2 wide all over the racetrack. This is a very wide surface, especially in turns 1 and turns 3 and this main front straightaway. So you do have to watch out for the moves that can be panned out. Looks like Omar Diallo trying to build up a move all the way to the inside. There's a 3-way battle for round 24th. Christian Peterson on the outside. That is AJ Serrato in front of them. Alex Bergeron on the bottom. Christian Peterson kind of stuck in this battle as well. Rather Matt Forcappa, I think, in the middle of that 3 wide. There's a look at Omar Diallo, who had led a good amount of the race and started from the front of the field at Mid-Ohio. There's a look at the 3 wide battle as they head for turn 2, and now let's start to single file out. But Rachel, you can already tell the difficulties of driving a track like Pocono in a packed 35 trucks deep. You have to really be careful and tiptoe your way around the racetrack, or else you're going to hit somebody or you're going to get caught in the middle 3 wide, and somebody's going to have to back out at some point.
You know, if you put a beaker of water on the track here at Pocono, it'll start to boil. When that happens, all those little atoms in the water will start bouncing off each other a lot more until it becomes a gas. In this case, those atoms are the trucks here, because I'm seeing a lot of trucks touching a lot of trucks. There's some inappropriate workplace behavior going on down there. These trucks are slick on this track, right? It is definitely on the slicker side. We can see a lot of movement in the corners, people drifting up, and I'm just seeing nudge, 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 people just touching the side of each other's trucks, and it's going to go horribly wrong in a moment, but they're all being really optimistic as we really single file out now, apart from about 3 trucks here that are still too wide. It's really dropped down to that single file line. It is not going to work to stay too wide around here.
And you are right, Rachel. Everybody single file from at least the first 15 or so trucks, now making first 17 or so trucks. I think the first side-by-side battle is for 18th. Kevin King and Dalton Collins going at it. Brendan John Kohler on the backside of that battle. You're right on board with the number 29 machine. This is 31st place Trevor Perry, and an interesting story on behalf of Trevor Perry tonight. He has asked his job for, obviously, the Road to Pro nights to be off so that he can be in his house and in his sim rig whenever he goes racing here for round number 2 of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series, but got dispatched overnight to South Carolina. He's in North Carolina, so he had some friends help him out. The folks at the Carolina Esports Hub, they've hosted the Monday Night Racing Championship finale for Season 4, and I think they will be hosting another playoff event for Monday Night Racing next week when they take the Xfinity cars to Legacy, Texas. They offered him one of their rigs, so Trevor Perry not only racing from the Esports Hub, but also live streaming on Twitch to all of his fans that watch him there on that platform. So good to see Trevor Perry finding a rig and getting to race here tonight.
I'm watching right now the 15 and 25, Nanny and King. Those two are getting real cozy down there. Really, really, really cozy. Definitely first name terms. They've rubbed some paint, they've nudged each other, there's been a little bit of bumping, and it's either going to work out good or it's going to go sideways, because the 15 is underneath the 25 right now, heading towards turn 2, the tunnel turn here, and he's going to go for the undershot, but they're going to hold it side by side here. He's going to drift up and a little bit, not quite this time by, but they're really pushing this thing.
You know, I don't know if that was pun intended there, Rachel, because they have a Cozy right in front of them, Michael Cozy Jr. in the 6th machine as he rolls through turn number 3, and they will remain side by side. Nanny in the 25, Kevin King in that 15 machine. They'll maybe have a challenge here from Dalton Collins, and draft already taking into effect as you look back at the front 2 wide. Tinsley Parker White have been inseparable nose to tail, and they have broken away from the likes of Brandon McKissick and the field behind them. One thing, though, that's going to be very important, especially now that the field is single file, and I talked about it just a tad bit in our pre-race show before we got started here, Rachel, is the dirty air. These trucks, they have a lot of downforce, and those big spoilers are there, and they create a big hole in the air, but when you're in the corners and you're behind another truck, you're going to start to get a sensation of understeer. That truck's going to want to travel up the racetrack. It's not going to rotate as well as you would want it to. And we've seen it also happen with the Coke Series guys with the next gen cars. The dirty air is so prevalent at a track like Pocono's. They are 3 wide. You are right. That is the machine of Dalton Collins on the inside, breaking through in the battle between Kevin King and Daniel Nanny. But dirty air is going to be huge here, and with these big spoilers, it is not going to help. You got to make sure you take care of that right front. Don't overheat it or wear it too much at a track temp that is not helping whatsoever as you ride on board with Collins.
Yeah, and you mentioned this before the broadcast, that we're seeing the gasser setups coming back in, which is a very super speedway thing to do. Get that spoiler down and out of the air. we're seeing these guys take that super speedway approach to this track, and while there are a lot of big straights here, you also might want it for the corners to give you a little bit of downforce here. But yeah, that's going to change the aerodynamics of these trucks and make them dirtier in terms of the air behind them. But the big thing here, of course, is just being very careful about where you put it. You say protect the right front. Yeah, sure, that works. You've got a corner your truck is set up for. It's not going to be protected in the other two, so we're going to see higher wear.
And it's definitely true. You ride on board here this time. Drew Freenage, who's made a solid charge up through the field after starting back in 25th. He's up to 22nd and may have a couple of more spots on tap as well. That is Brendan John Kohler. He's going against Tommy Gossett in the middle for Reaper Sim Speed Lab. A nice paint scheme there on the 10 machine going into turn 1. They'll spread it 3 wide into that first corner. They'll have AJ Stravato on the backside of this battle, and remaining 3 wide they will go. This will help Daniel Nanny. I think he likes to see them 3 wide. Almost contact there for Freenage, who has to back out. And now here comes Stravato with a big push to Gossett on the back straightaway.
Yeah, trying to give it something here and trying to make an opportunity, but we're still green all this way so far. 8 laps in at Pocono, I thought I'd seen something happen already. It's definitely a little bit more cautious right now with how these tyres are wearing out. I think we're trying to feel where this thing's going to go over a run, and will we see green flag pit stops? That's the question we're starting to ask now.
Now, I feel like if we ask that question, I think we're probably going to get a yes. This Pocono Raceway is known for strategy racing. And again, we talked about it at the top of the show. You have to treat this track like a road course. It's not the conventional 1.5 mile oval where you can treat it like an oval and you can sort of get away with other things. You can't do so here at a track like Pocono, because if you do, it'll turn its ugly head rear side and it will punish you deeply for it. This triple-headed beast is not to be played with. And the strategy is in the fact of that beast as well. You have to keep in mind the strategy is going to come in at some point. And also, this is a 60-lap race. These trucks cannot make it on a set of fuel from the start. So they are going to have to pit at least once. Maybe there could be a sign of a 2-stop strategy, but caution comes out on behalf of Colton Salick in the 28, who goes around. That is the tunnel turn 2. There's another truck involved in it as well. It looks to be the 31 of Brian Blackford. Salick started tonight 27th. Blackford started back in 33rd. So we'll look to see exactly how this all began. And it looked to be a slam from Derek Lemke in his machine. And actually, it was just a faulty push, I think, Rachel, on the back straightaway. You watch right there. Lemke gets down the track into the machine of Salick, and then Brian Blackford caught up at the worst time as he slams into the side of Salick's car.
Yeah, I'm just going to kind of review this in my mind here as they're coming in towards turn 2, and I don't know, it's not really a faulty push there. That's going in deeper than you would have liked, I think, because, oh no, looking up ahead of these guys, that started a little bit further up the track than we're seeing. Yeah, no, not the right place for this sort of thing to happen, because at that point in the track, you don't want to be doing that sort of thing. He caught the wall a bit, though. It wasn't necessarily to do with the push. Oh no, yeah, maybe, yeah. But the wall definitely ended the race for those two, unfortunately.
You know, when you give a push like that, especially sideways, it gets one truck side, and then they hit the outside wall, and they have no other choice but to try and reverb it off of the wall and get out of the situation, but have a truck down low, and that's exactly what caused the contact. Ryan Doucette, one of the Logitech Gialtis esports drivers, he was involved in that as well, so he's going to dive back. He is 33rd, and he is taking a trip onto pit road, much like the drivers of Blackford and company, all of them, of course, trying to take some damage. No fast repairs given to these drivers. And Doucette, a Rockingham 508 winner, a race hosted by one of our good friends, Blake McCandless, the play-by-play commentator for Monday Night Racing, which you find every Monday here on Podium Esports. And so Doucette not off to the greatest start here from Pocono. We'll see if he can pick things back up. Leaders on pit road, and I think, Rachel, not sure if this is going to be the call exactly to get to the end of this race. We may see another stop before this thing is all said and done, but Tinsley has convinced basically everybody behind him to come down pit road for the first time tonight.
Yeah, you've gotten 10 laps here. Pit road's the right call. 4 fresh Goodyears and a tank full of fuel seems like exactly the right answer at this stage of the race, because the tires will start to be... Yeah. Ooh, driver's getting a little bit spicy as well from what I'm seeing on the radio.
So it looks to be 4 tires and fuel for most of the field, and roughly an average of 14.5 seconds on the pit stop, and no changes for top handful of spots. Wyatt Tinsley comes out first, Parker White second, Brandon McKissick third, Boyd Hogan in fourth, and Agnell Phillip rounding out your top 5. There's the rest of the field, and of course I mentioned those trucks that are on pit road. Derek Lemke, I think he is out of the race. Same deal for the 16 of Daniel Smallwood, but for the likes of Doucette, looks like Colin Salick, Brian Blackford, they're all on pit road. I think they have another truck joining them as well. And some of the last trucks are coming out of the stalls right now, and Tinsley will pick up the iRacing official pace car after our first caution here tonight from the virtual Pocono Raceway. Well, just to remind you that our coverage tonight of the eNASCAR Road to Pro Qualifying iRacing Series is brought to you by Boosted.biz. Boosted builds a custom platform for your brand to sell your products. They take care of everything. You can pay nothing and let them handle the rest. To get started with your online store, visit Boosted.biz today. I think, Rachel, I just let out a sigh of relief letting that boosted read out, because last time, 2 weeks ago, I was handling the boosted read, and then Omar Giallo, your race leader, had spun around, and the drama ensued at possibly the worst time where we were trying to knock some things down. But fortunately, we're under caution, so everything's single file. But from this opening run, any main takeaways you saw out of the drivers in the field?
Day sketchy is my takeaway from that first run of the race. Everyone's loose. I might take a click on the rear for this thing, because these trucks are real loose. I don't know if we're going to go full stints here. I thought we might, but that didn't look like a accidentally lost it, I was loose sort of situation. That looked like a miscalculation, so we might go green here. I don't think we're good to the end, but no, we're not good to the end at all. But I think we'll see to the caution. I think these trucks are really loose. I think that's going to be the big takeaway here, is people are getting an awful lot of close without the traction to back it up.
And we've seen, I think, a pure contrast. There are some drivers in the front of the field who look more snug than others, and I think that the guys in the mid-pack with the loose setups, maybe either they just like it that way, or maybe they just wanted a long enough run to get that setup dialed in so it can tighten up over. Again, we talk about the hot track temp. We're still in the triple digits in sim. It's actually grown hotter, and now that we've grown later in the afternoon, it's now 117 degrees. It's 2 degrees hotter than our 115 that we started on the green flag, so it's only going to get worse. And those problems of the right front that we talked about and the looseness, the lack of grip, is only going to be exacerbated here. For the leaders, it hasn't been a big problem, but I think in the mid-pack, Rachel, I think is where we've seen some of those highlights. Field will come out of the tunnel turn, and again, we will have the same two that started this race to the green flag that will bring us back in to our green flag restart here on lap number 13 of 60. Wyatt Tinsley has led all of the laps so far. He's had Parker White behind him to follow. We'll see if they make any sort of moves, but I think those drivers, they know each other very well. I think they'll work together here on the restart, just trying to separate themselves from the rest of the field as much as they can. We've seen Brandon McKissick, Boyd Hogan, and those guys behind third on back trying to catch up. They haven't had any answers yet for your top two. We'll see if they do here on the next restart. Pace car makes its way down to pit road to the long front straightaway and to the Geico restart zone. Wyatt Tinsley, Parker White moving forward to the start-finish line. We're back under green from Pocono.
Yeah, good start here in front of the field. We're already 3 wide up at the sharp end, right behind your leaders there. So these guys looking to make some early ground here, possibly hoping for that thing to run long here. Low side's not going to work quite as well. Middle strong for the likes of the 4 truck here. Forkingham holding a good run here. Going to have that distance off the turn. 3 drops in behind him. That's going to be the Merchant. Keeping a good head on the action towards turn 2, but just keeping an eye on where everybody is. Look at how much these trucks are moving, and they're sliding all of them a little bit off. Oh, big tick up there by Forkingham. Got super loose. Had to correct. The Merchant had to drop down below.
And you saw the bump there in the tunnel turn. That can upset you if you're on the bottom side, and it affected Forkingham to where he had to basically kick the rear end all the way sideways and lost a lot of momentum. He's going to get put 3 wide in the middle as Justin Knobloch up high, and Knobloch gets turned on the front straightaway in front of Zach the Merchant. Caution comes out on a single truck spin on lap 14, and it looked like trouble, Rachel. Ever since there were 3 wide in Forkingham, got sideways. Knobloch gets hit on the rear side by Forkingham Silverado, and we're under caution once again.
Yeah, we're going to replay for you here for that, and yeah, things look pretty sketchy coming out of 2. And it didn't stop there because just little bits of contact here and then came back across and gets turned around, and I'm glad nobody else got caught up in that, but that's Pocono. That is racing too close when it's too loose.
Take a look at how this all started. This is entering, or rather exiting out of turn 3, right on board with Seth the Merchant, who did pick up some front end damage off of that spin. Obviously, he's down here. There's really nothing he can do with. He just gets blindsided by the spinning knob-block truck. I think here, Buckingham was just trying to get back in line, and we've seen here at Pocono, it's such a large track, 2.5 miles, that with these long straightaways, you're going to have to think about the draft as well, and the big draft trains that can form. You see right there, it was forming there with Knoblauch leading a group of trucks, Omar Diallo on the backside of that as well. And I think Buckingham just tried to get behind Knoblauch's truck, but unfortunately, it was a move made too early and made contact with the right quarter, or the left quarter panel, rather, of Knoblauch's machine, and sent Knoblauch spinning there into the inside wall. Knoblauch has since fallen back to 30th, and we'll see if he goes down pit road to get some damage repair. And I can almost think as well here, Rachel, that Seth the Merchant's going to do the same. That's not going to be good for the number 3 truck either.
Seth's also been pretty good in points. I think he'd afford to come down here and get some repairs done and see what happens for him, but it's a tricky position there because he was running pretty well. Can we expect to see degradation in this? Yes, I think we'll see some further degradation in terms of position, so it might be a good time to get some repairs looked at, see if there's anything too wrong with the truck. It's not going to hurt you too much. You'll get back up towards the front as you go on here. Not enough laps of the tyres, but it's worth taking a look at the damage, I think. Yeah, he's sitting pretty sweet on points, so I think it's a good time to actually start to go rock himself back a little bit and think about more the point score overall than necessarily position result.
Yeah, it is definitely true. Seth the Merchant, one of the most dominant drivers in our round 1 coverage here on Podium Esports, and he came into tonight 28th in our point standings out of your top 70, so he's roughly halfway there, I think, to the top 50. And I think if he pits here, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. We're still only 15 laps in, so there's still a lot of racing left to go, and we'll see what the Merchant does. But that is some significant front end damage, and at a track that does have the long straightaways, like I said, you're going to have to depend a lot on the aerodynamic smoothness of the race truck, and so having the damage and the crinkles on the front end certainly isn't going to help. And it seems like the answer is yes for the Merchant. He is going to come down pit road, but he's not going to be the only one. There are a couple of trucks here to follow. Obviously, Justin Knoblauch, who got turned there at the exit of turn 3, he's in. So is Thomas Keane, one of the later entrants into this Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series in round 2. Didn't make it at first, but a couple of drivers, actually, not just a couple, it was David Schildhaus, who had backed out before round 2 started. So Thomas Keane got his spot, and Keane going to take some fuel here. I think only no jacks up there on the left or right side of his Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, and so we'll just wait and see what happens there. Just a call there, I think, for strategy. That is going to be pivotal, I think, Rachel, a little bit, knowing that he may be a couple laps better on fuel. I don't think it's going to be significantly different to change the whole outcome of the race, but if it does stay green, I think you may have to watch out for that machine of Thomas Keane if he does anything interesting when it comes down to strategy.
I think when it comes down to those kind of numbers, it's going to be tyres that will make a difference, not fuel. But we're not good at this stage of the race still, so there is still plenty to play for here. They're not going to make the whole thing on this distance. So we'll have to see how it plays forwards. Tinsley, White, McKissick, Hogan, Therese, Phillips, Kerner. This could get interesting, but Forkingham's going to be the oddball in this top 10 grouping here that I want to keep my eye on.
And what I noticed there as well into turn 1, Rachel, Brandon McKissick, Boyd Hogan, it looked like they were more antsy on the restart. They wanted to split the Tinsley Parker White dynamic duo that is built up over the first 16 laps, and unfortunately, out of turn 1, it did not work. We'll see if they can pierce into the battle once again, but I can tell. I think after that first caution, they said, all right, we understand how fast these top 2 are. Let's break in the middle. Let's force their hand and make them do something different. We'll just have to see, as it looks like the pace car will give the 1 to green signal, and we'll take another trip around this 2.5-mile tricky triangle as we continue our coverage here tonight from the Pocono Raceway. Well, if you want to learn more about the growing world of eNASCAR and all its happenings, you can scan the QR code on the right side, bottom right side of your screen, or you can visit eNASCAR.com and sign up today to get all the latest news and updates from the Road to Pro series to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series and much, much more. Sign up today with iRacing and eNASCAR. I think, Rachel, that is a fitting read because here at Pocono, a couple of days ago, we saw a thrilling fight to the finish. I think one of the closest, if not the closest, eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series finish in history. 6 1,000ths of a second between Casey Kerwin and Zach Novak. It was an unbelievable fight to the end, and hopefully we can see some of the same magic happen here tonight from the Pocono Mountains. But that Coke Series race, unbelievably non-disappointing. It lived up to the hype at the end.
unbelievably non-disappointing. That's the most passive-aggressive expression I've ever heard, Kenneth. But no, I agree. It was a fantastic end to that race. But sorry, I'm still loving that phrase. Absolutely non-disappointing.
I should have probably just got up on my chair and started screaming. That's what I was thinking live.
I mean, yeah. No, that's the kind of brain fart that something that good leads to. So yeah, I agree with you. It was most definitely non-disappointing. I was incredibly non-annoyed.
Not annoyed. Yeah, I like that. I like the continuation of that. Well, if you wanted more excitement out of me, you could just go to my Twitter. I had all caps tweet, hashtag eNASCAR, you name it. I was going balls to the wall. It was crazy watching that finish. I'm sure the whole chat was as well, watching that race. A great one all the way to the finish as well. The caution strategy really played up to its hype as well, with multiple teams doing different calls, and then that finish, just a throwdown between two drivers trying to make it to, obviously, to keep themselves in the top 20 for 2023, and of course make the playoffs for the chance at the grand prize at the end of the season. We're ready to continue racing here tonight with the trucks in the Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. Green flag back in the air. Restart lap number 18. Wyatt Tinsley with a solid jump, and here comes Brandon McKissick. Help from Santiago Tires to turn 1.
Yeah, getting a good run into 1 here, see what these guys can pull out for the rundown. We're still sitting 2 to 3 wide through this field here as we're going to be spreading out towards the rear. Field a little bit safer, I think. And people are trying to gain as many spots as they can in this early running, so we're seeing a lot of really energetic movements. Behind Forkingham, it's going to be a 13-4 of Wynn, who's trying to find an opportunity here above him. 24 of Kerner. 18 and 6 behind them. That's Cozy Jr. We've got Phillip as well. Now people are just trying to find a spot here, trying to find a line to get into and run some laps.
We've seen many drivers here utilizing the middle. Looks like the bottom is not the best, especially when you're side by side. It gives the opportunity for the driver up top to sort of pinch you down if you're down there near that yellow line, especially in a turn 3, a long sweeping left-hander. And here comes Eddie Kerner helping here to the number 2 machine. That's Boyd Hogan, so he clears for 4th. He'll go side by side with Tires. Kerner will this time. Outside in turn number 1, will nab some of the clean air and then pick the dirty air back up. But most importantly, on the straightaway, we'll get the draft. So Eddie Kerner will slip into 5th. Some solid progress here after starting 10th. Kerner has Eddie Ball with the Neonism colors on his Chevy Silverado this evening. He's right on board with his truck going into turn 2, one of the fastest parts of this Pocono Raceway, and they have since single filed out. I think the first side-by-side battle you'll see is just inside the top 10. That is between Daniel Falkingham and Dalton Collins, the 9 and the 4, going at it into the long sweeping left-hander turn 3. So I guess with what I was saying about the driver start on back being more antsy on the restart, I think they've tried to slip up in between Wyatt Tinsley and Parker White, but it's not working. The top 2 have broken away, and they are not the furthest away from the field, but they're planning on doing what they did in that first run and just breaking away.
Yeah, certainly are, and they're doing a good job of that. They're trying to make some space for it now and just keep opening that up. Behind them, McKissick and Hogan trying to do exactly the same thing. We're seeing pairs forming up at the front, actually. This is an interesting difference here in Pocono, but we're seeing little groupings. So everyone's trying to get a dance partner, and they're trying to get themselves some space here, push as hard as possible. But you can't be pushing into turn 2, because people have different braking positions based on their setup and which corner they're optimizing for. If they're optimizing more for 3, they can go a little bit deeper into 2. If they're optimized more for 1, they're going to have to get off the gas a little bit earlier into 2. So you're going to have to be very aware of where people are actually getting off, arriving at turn 2. That can and has already got people out.
And that exit turn 2 is treacherous if you make up a wrong move, and the right front severely gets torn up as the caution flag will wave. And it looks to be Thomas Keene. That is the 32. We saw him on pit road under the last yellow, and Keene in some trouble here. Some heavy damage specifically on the rear end of the machine here on the Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, and he was stuck top 3 wide. Rachel, again, another instance where we see 3 wide result in a crash. Justin Knobloch was actually, no, not in this at all. This was the Reaper SimLab machine that looked to be Tommy Gossett in his number 10 truck. It was all the way at the bottom end of that battle where they had a truck in the middle that was Tanner Love in the 33. So they were 3 wide. Here's a look from Gossett, who gets the rumble strip. His truck unsettles, moves up the track, and a hard slam to the outside wall, and the truck gets 2 wheels up over the air as Thomas Keene goes from a potential strategy call there on the last yellow to a truck being practically torn up, and he is pulled behind the wall. He's out of the race.
still going 3 wide off a restart. Really? Is
It's
this Road to
Pocono.
Pro? I mean, oh man, like 3 wide off a restart, 3 wide into turn 3 off a restart. That's not brave. That's just silly. The tires aren't warm enough yet. You ain't gonna grip. As we saw there, he came up the track. It's a hot track. You've got cool tires. That ain't a good mixture. Truck's gonna ride up. So 3 wide, you're giving yourself less room. So it was a pretty nice kickflip, though. I'll give him that.
That was a nice move there by Keane. Unfortunately, it's going to result in him being on pit road. He's going to lose a lot of spots, and I think he'll be on the back foot for the rest of this race. But a crash there that is worth remembering here on lap number 22 as we close in on our halfway mark here in tonight's Pocono race. Race 2 of round number 2 in the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. We'll remind you for just a moment while we're under yellow once again that our coverage tonight is brought to you by the fine folks at Battle Beaver. Battle Beaver has everything you need for your next professionally modded custom controller with options for PlayStation, Xbox, GameCube, and more. Battle Beaver has everything you need to elevate your gaming potential. Head to battlebeavercustoms.com to customize your controller, and you can use the code PODIUM for 10% off your next purchase.
Hey, Kenneth, did they do N64?
I'm sorry?
Did they do N64?
I hope so. I never played N64. Yeah. I want to, but I hope they do that.
I want a controller for my Mega Drive. I mean, they might. Okay. Yeah, they might. Custom Mega Drive controller? I might go for that.
Can they manufacture a Sega Dreamcast controller too? I think that would be pretty.
Well, they mentioned that in the read, so that, I mean, if we're going retro, let's go retro.
Hey, why not? Why not? You know, I was gonna say in more modern terms to show you that video where you talk about 3 wide in the middle of the corner. Show you that video of IndyCar back a couple of years ago when they visited Pocono and they were going like 6 wide, 7 wide, going into turn 1. That's the nature of Pocono. The space is there. It just funnels through. That's the problem.
Yeah, and unfortunately the space might be there, the room might be there, the grip ain't there. IndyCars can do it because they've got downforce. They have big wings on their cars. These don't.
Well, will we count the spoiler as the big old wing? Could we
Nowhere close enough. Not even close
Jr.'s saying that's this big, I can't say the word, but big spoiler that he said a couple of years back.
I mean, I can tell you what happens at the end of season 4 of Stranger Things. That'd be a big spoiler.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so if anybody out there, don't tell me what happens at the end of season 4. Also to note, Seth the Merchant in the 3 truck, remember he got into that incident involving Justin Knobloch on the front straightaway. He has pulled behind the wall. He is out of tonight's race from Pocono, so he goes from 28th going into tonight to we don't know after, but it is going to be a significant hit for one of our top heavy hitters to make it into the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series later this year. So that's going to hurt a lot, Rachel. I think at the Merchant, that's going to hurt the confidence a little bit, but I think the damage was just a little bit too much. I'm not sure if there was any engine damage, if he had any lost RPMs, but if he did, that is just a tough break there for Demerchant, who's a very strong driver and just could not show it here. Just got caught up on the wrong side of things on that crash.
Not really his fault there. Just ended up crossed over where he didn't want to be. But yeah, he's it's going to cost him. But hey, it's not the end of the road. It's just unfortunate. It's likely aero damage because you can never fully fix aero damage, unfortunately, and you just lose too much speed.
All right, so we will cross the start-finish line. This will be the official 1 to green marker for the field, so the lights will flicker off on the iRacing pace car, and we'll have Wyatt Tinsley and Parker White again occupying the inside and the outside of row number 1, and it appears to be the same lineup around the top 5 on back. I think other than Eddie Kerner, who made some spots there on the last restart, there hasn't been too many changes, and the top 5, top 4 or so have been inseparable. They haven't been broken up at all in the first 24 laps of this race. We are approaching halfway, so I think, Rachel, we are going to get closer to that decision time on whether these guys are going to come down pit road an extra one more time before this race is done and make it on that fuel marker, because, again, I think those early pit stops were probably good to help extend a couple laps on the stint, but it's not going to save you 100% to get to the checkered flag.
If we get a caution after this, they might be good to the end. It's going to be tough, but I think they might be good there. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on. You are good after this. One more caution. Yeah, that's the ballpark.
I wonder if we may see a split here, not only on fuel, but I think on tires if we do get another caution, because we have seen 2 tires work at Pocono, and I have seen not in the truck specifically, but in the next gens, the Cup Series cars, the Coke Series drivers did it as well. 2 tires happen to work on some of these runs where you just replace the right side tires on the car or slash truck, and it could work. And even with the older left side tires, it starts to even out, and the car indeed feels much better, and it still carries a lot of speed. So we'll see if those guys go for the gamble. For now, it's only been 4 tire calls for the entire field, and obviously we are still wandering into the unknown in the last half of this race from Pocono Raceway on whether these guys will come down pit road under green, whether they'll come down pit road under yellow, and what happens to the top 2 who have been inseparable since the drop of the green from Barney the Flagman. Pace car makes its way and weaves left to the entrance of pit road. There's Barney the Flagman with the green flag in tow. Wyatt Tinsley, Parker White again to the green flag on lap number 25 of 60.
Getting a go here as we stay 2 wide all the way up here. So we're already looking, going down to that bottom. We're not seeing that same spread out as we always see, but we're already 3 wide here as the 2 goes up 7 contact with the 25. Getting up the middle there as things get a little bit spicy. We don't see, I think that was the 26 actually we saw there. That was Matt Fockper. As we're 3 wide, 2 deep, just a little bit further back to the top 10 there. That's awful busy as we head towards tunnel turn as we're going to go through now, and top 3 a single fella. Everybody else is not in his contact already. Lots of contact, checking up. Everyone stays straight.
And that's Jake Nichols in the 7 truck stuck in the middle. He had a huge stand on the bottom, 3 wide into turn 1 by Brendan John Kohler in the 12. And Kohler now in a respected battle here. There looks to be Garrison Hogan on the bottom side of turn 3. They are 3 wide even further up the road. Daniel Falkingham on the rear side of this. Agnel Phillip, Santiago Tires. The 9 of Dalton Collins on the bottom as well. Here's Kevin Keane to give a push, so it continues to be tensious up at the front of the field. They have settled down from 3 wide, and here comes Brandon John Kohler again with a dive to the inside, trying to make something work, and can't do so as they are almost 3 wide again out of turn 1.
They're trying to make this thing work yet again as we get on here. Lap 26 of this race, and we've single-filed nearly everybody, but Parker White's pushing Tinsley. Those 2 are just trying to get out of there. They want to decide this race between the 2 of them, not anybody else. This is a team effort right now in this race till they get down to the point where they can decide it.
Yeah, they have been so far the commanders of this race, and again we go 3 wide, and again Jake Nichols is forced in the middle of all that. It's Alex Bergeron this time, the contender on the bottom. Drew Freenage in that red, white, and blue iRacing truck on the high side, and watch out, here comes Christian Peterson to the bottom to make it a 4-horse race, maybe even make it 5 with the 33 of Tanner Love. We saw him slightly involved in that crash out of turn 3 for our last yellow, but didn't pick up a lot of damage, so the Reaper Sim Speed Lab number 33 is back in the fight. This is around the latter half of the top 20. In your top 22 as Nichols will force his way up high here on Peterson. He'll have the number 33 of Tanner Love to follow. And once again, we continue to battle side by side. 3 wide into a place, Rachel, where they call a choke point. The tunnel turn, turn 2, it thins things out. We've seen some great battles so far.
Thins things out, it'll kick the truck around, and it makes things quite interesting. It will definitely change the weight distribution of the truck really quickly, which can make it a little bit harder to hold on to, but not if you manage it just right. Turn 3 here, this is one where you're going to really want to wash out that mid. It's not quite the bottom line you want to be in. You want to be almost a lean up to go through turn 3 really with the best line, I'd say. Depends on the weather and where the rubber's at, but on a good track, you're going for that kind of second lane up almost. It's actually on the previous version, before they repaved this thing, there was actually it was so much the right line, there was a repaved strip that went all the way to the corner. That many cars, trucks riding on it, that you just followed the Albert Road.
And that high side continues to be somewhat good, especially in turns 1 and turns 3. I think most notably in turn 1, because there are some bumps there on the bottom, and if you ride the inside line just a little bit too much, the truck or the car will snap loose, and I've seen it happen in multiple cars on the NASCAR ladder, and it's happened so far here with these trucks as you continue to watch your top 2 run away from Brandon McKissick and company. Wyatt Tinsley and Parker White have not traded places at all, and I think, Rachel, they're probably not going to do so either, or maybe Parker White is just planning another one of these mid-Ohio runs where he just hangs behind the leader, somebody he knows very well. He knows Omar Diallo very well as well. They've raced each other a lot on the iRacing sim. Just hang behind, and then wait for the right moment to strike. I think that may be what's happening here for this one, just methodically working his way through the race until he can have that opportunity. As we'll look back, this is a battle for 11th. Agnell Phillip, who finished top 3 in our on-split coverage at Mid-Ohio, under fire from Daniel Falkingham going into the tunnel turn.
You know what turn 2 affords you at someone like Pocono a little better than he does at Mid-Ohio? Fuel saving. It's a smart place to be to P2.
Fan into turn 3, Falkingham remaining down low on Phillip. We'll see if they wash up out of turn 3. Answer is no, so they will remain side by side, and the same can be said for the guys behind them. They have single filed out, but Brandon John Kohler underneath on Garrison Hogan, they go single file as well. Now the next battle is behind them. Daniel Nanny in the 25, Tommy Gossett on the very inside. Almost contact between the two. That's Matt Forcappa on the rear side of that. He's done a good job of working through the field after starting in 26th tonight. He's been as high as 13th here in this race, and he's trying to get back up to the top 15 or at least the top 10 to get up there. But again, they'll go single file. Like you said, Rachel, I think saving may be crucial here now that we have singled things out, and we may end up in a long run for the finish. I think draft is also going to matter as well. Even if you're stuck in dirty air, that draft and being behind under the driver is going to help significantly when it comes to just letting off the throttle and saving a couple of drops of fuel.
It'll be a big impact, and I think it also gives you a good guide to follow. Running out front is actually hard because you're the one leading the pace in the line. You can really follow someone else's wheel tracks if you are in second place, so it does really help you. But yeah, the fuel save is a big thing. As we've seen this whole front group really separate off right now, back to about 10th place here before we have a second gap back to Agnell Phillip, and that's going to make a big help for them. This is going to be about balancing this thing, trying to keep this thing running. We said we had a long run the first time, and then that changed.
Right on board here with the A machine, Santiago Gutierrez running in 8th. That is Dalton Collins behind in the Curb Records logo on the top of the hood of the Chevrolet Silverado there, as they get very close to the ending of that safer barrier out of turn 2. And I think the right fronts are starting to scream a little bit, Rachel. They're starting to ask for more grip because drivers are getting a little bit eager there at the exit of that corner. They're washing up, and the last thing you want to do is get some damage on the right side of your truck and affect it negatively when it comes down to the aerodynamic performance of these trucks, which do have a lot of downforce in it. So if you whack them a little bit and you get some damage to your vehicle, it will affect you on the long straightaways. And we've seen a lot of those guys take advantage of faults out of the corner from the guys in front of them, and if you get damage, it is ultimately going to make things much, much worse. Now on board with your race leader, Wyatt Tinsley, who is still remain even with Parker White, and they again, Rachel, have broken away the distance between White and McKissick, 0.3 of a second going into the tunnel turn. They're just trying to break away, be in their own league, and if they can get a 1-2, I think that would be the most fantastic effort for them at a top level like this.
And we've already seen from Logitech Gialta's guys that teams and friends can be really important in this series, and it's not about who wins, it's about who gets in. Teamwork goes a long way.
And so everybody's single file here as we close in on the final 27 laps here from the virtual Pocono Raceway. Wyatt Tinsley came into tonight's event 42nd in the point standings, garnered a total of 16 points out of Mid-Ohio. And we did talk about guys sort of getting their best foot forward. Parker White being at the top of the list, with Joey Brown leading a good amount of laps and winning the race, getting 40 points to their tally, being at the very top. Guys like Wyatt Tinsley didn't have the greatest run at Mid-Ohio, but this could be an accurate response if you're a driver of that 11 truck, to just stay out front, have some fun with a guy like Parker White, who, you know, you've raced with a lot on the sim. I've seen these guys before in official sessions and even in leagues as well, and they race very clean around each other, very competitively as well. And for Wyatt Tinsley, if he can get a checkered flag here and hold on in the final stage of this race, it would be the best foot that he could ever place here into the door to get into contender, and that would give him a huge surge, just depending on who he beats on the racetrack here in this split. And obviously the guys who have had trouble tonight, most notably Seth the Merchant, who is out of this race. You watch a maybe battle here around top 3, Rachel. This is Eddie Kerner trying to weave his way into the top 3 for the first time tonight, and Brandon McKissick trying to play a little bit of defense.
Yeah, McKissick trying to play a little bit safe here. Kerner's looking for an opportunity, hasn't found one yet that will actually work. But you see them down here coming through too, how much they're rubbing up towards that safer barrier on the outside there. And that's only going to get closer and closer as we go through a set of tyres here. But watch this line here through 3. You can see the about lane off here. And they're going to drop down very late to the apex point there before pushing it all the way out again. Not actually on the apex very long given how big this corner is. And it is about most of a lane off most of the way around. Just absolutely flying off that final corner there. But this track, you're starting to see the drops moving further and further out here with the weather and on the track, the tyres, so already it's affecting them.
And the track temp has only gone up. Now it's 121. We took note at the start, 115. We took note around the first or so caution was 117, and now it's 4 degrees hotter more, so 121. It will continue to get hotter here as we start at noontime in sim. It's now 1 o'clock in sim Eastern time at the virtual Pocono Raceway, so the tires are now starting to fall off. We do know that pit stops should be coming sooner than later. McKissick posted on Twitter after his finish at Mid-Ohio. He was elated for that P6 finish after basically being in a pack almost for the entirety of that last segment of the race. And I think that gives him a lot of confidence here for the Bobby Dale Earnhardt Legacy Esports group. That is one of the teams that does compete in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. They have a couple of drivers under that Legacy Setup Technical Alliance banner. So McKissick will try to join them here, and we'll get into that second step if he can in November for the Contender Series. But, I mean, these guys have done a solid job of just hanging in and staying single file. I think that maybe, Rachel, what their plan is, they don't want to run single file, or rather double file. They don't want to go 3 wide as we look at a double file battle between Matt Forcappa on the bottom there on the inside and Daniel Nani all the way at the top. But I think a lot of the guys up front, they just want to be single. They just want to ride their own race, step into a rhythm, and then when that pit stop comes around, they know how to dial it the best way they can, as Forcappa almost got into the rear end of Nani coming out of turn 2, and now here comes Christian Peterson fighting against Drew Freenage into turn 3.
Yeah, we're going to see a bit more of this as this run goes on, because the later we get in the tyres, we'll see people come off at different paces. People will see a chance to actually do something with this and make another move. And here, I genuinely think that this is going to be when we'll see those mistakes happen. It's like later in the tyre run, and when we're seeing some cars dropping off a little bit more, people think they've got a chance to make a move here, and this could be a little bit optimistic, I think, especially if they don't know where someone's going to end up sliding.
Peterson holding strong on the outside here of Freenage, and Freenage has a little bit of left of rear damage on his Chevy Silverado. Hasn't affected him too drastically, but he will back out of line. Does not have the run out of turn 1, so will stay behind here into turn 2. They are going side by side for position now within the top 10. Looks like Kylo Wynn has decided to pull the trigger on a move here outside of Michael Cozy Jr. into turn 3. Rachel, we've talked about Michael Cozy Jr. extensively, not only himself, but the team at Logitech G Sports. And at the tail end of round 1, put a lot of great finishes together in the top 3 and in the top 5. Had some solid top 10 finishes as well. And this number 6 machine, Cozy Jr., trying to do all that he can with his team to keep the consistency up. He came into tonight 9th in the standings overall.
Yeah, Cozy Jr. has been quiet but consistent so far this season, and the others have had some pretty stellar results, of course. The Merchant had a great time. He's retired from this race. But Logitech G, they're very big in terms of teamwork, working together with those trucks on the track. So it's important to see him do that. But Cozy's kind of flying the flag right now towards the front here, and it's going to be about managing that that performance and trying to keep himself clean here, because there's a lot of people who are going to want to slice.
And that was an interesting note you made there. Quiet, but consistent up at the front of the field. And we saw that a lot in round 1, where he wasn't the most highlighty driver. He wasn't the most flashy driver making bonsai moves or doing anything crazy. He just ran his race, stepped into a rhythm, and he knows how fast he can be. He's a special event winner on iRacing. He's done a lot of
he's a Denny Hamlin.
great things. Yeah, Denny Hamlin. Yeah, that's good. That's a good description. Quiet, but very fast. And then by the time you notice him, he's probably already ahead of you. So then you have to find a way to respond. Speaking of respond, here is Freenage underneath the machine of Daniel Nani in the 25, and he was trying to respond to Christian Peterson up ahead the road, but Nani will have the advantage out of 1, so Freenage will lose another spot. We have one driver onto pit road. Actually, no, that is Brian Blackford. He has been on pit road for a majority of the race after the caution. One thing, though, I have noticed here, Rachel, now that the tires are starting to fall off this cliff and we're getting into the final 22 laps, guess who's here? Brandon McKissick, Eddie Kerner, Boyd Hogan, Michael Cozy Jr. This 4-pack of trucks catching up to Parker White and Wyatt Tinsley.
And it's starting to get up there, and that could be a huge thing to how this plays forward. Will they be able to defend later in the run? Because we're going further now than we've actually managed before, so this could be the chance for this to actually go out and make this end exciting.
And we're also getting into 30 laps on a stint, so we may end up seeing some calls for strategy. McKissick going to float high into turn 1. I think utilizing that third lane just to get out of the dirty air and the wash-up effect that happens behind these trucks in first and second. I think this run is going to build them a good momentum booster into turn 2, the tunnel turn, and pretty much the fastest part of this Pocono Raceway. We dive underneath behind this one truck. We'll sort of seam it underneath that yellow line and won't have a run. He'll even out, and we'll bring Eddie Kerner back in behind him. So McKissick may plant a charge here sooner than later, as Cozy Jr. is now under fire. Boyd Hogan trying to mount a charge up high, can't do it, as they're side by side for position behind them. Kyler Wynn in position here, and now Rachel trucks down pit road. Brandon McKissick leading them down.
It is McKissick indeed, along with the 2, the 8, and the 9 coming in there. So we got Hogan, we got Tires, and we got Collins all hitting pit road here. So this is a good call from these guys. This is going to take them good to the end here. 19 laps to go for these guys. It's a big gamble because we've had cautions around this time period. So pitting on the green, it could really hurt them or it could really benefit them.
And they're going to be looking for the undercut here. Now they have to worry about tires. I don't think I see any 2-tire calls on behalf of these guys here. It just looks to be 14.5-second stops for most of them. Also add in the number 20 of Connor Horn for Smith Esports, the 67. The machine there in somewhat of the Vice colors, the Miami Vice colors. He is now coming out of pit road. Brandon McKissick taking a 14.1-second stop, so jacks up on both sides of the race truck. And now here comes your leaders, this second pack in. Parker White trying to outbrake Wyatt Tinsley on the entrance. They both lock up the brakes. They'll be side by side entering the pit lane. And that's Eddie Kerner behind them. Michael Cozy Jr. have a couple of drivers staying out, which does include Agnell Phillip, Matt Forcappa, Trevor Perry, Alex Bergeron, Dustin Johnson. But for everybody else, this should be the final stop of the race with 19 laps to go.
Man, that is a crazy pit road there. Very busy action on there for those guys. Hopefully this crew's going to out on track and going here. I'm going to cycle this around and see where this one shakes out. But those guys that pitted, of course, are now going to be in a rather advantageous position with this thing. They're coming out and they're going to possibly head towards maybe actually pulling something here, because look at him come now. That extra lap of good tires. It's going to see him out front.
And it may be the call worth making. Brandon McKissick edges out ahead. You're right on board with his machine. He gets out in front of the likes of Parker White and company and bring in even more drivers getting around this pack that just came down for service. I think the distance played to McKissick's favor, and he is currently your net race leader. He brought Boyd Hogan along with him, Santiago Tires to the inside of Parker White. But let's say if these fresh tire trucks now with maybe about a lap or so extra here on the advantage, they do get back out front, Wyatt Tinsley may not have the spot. Parker White has gotten in front of Tinsley out of pit road with a 14.2-second pit stop, 40.7 seconds overall, and it was about 0.2 slower out of Wyatt Tinsley overall, 0.4 of a second slower on that main pit stop for 4 fresh tires and some fuel. So that could be a pivotal change. That's all that they can get around McKissick and company. A couple of drivers on pit road, including the ones that did stay out, Matt Forcappa, Agnell Phillip. That leaves Dustin Johnson in the 30, Trevor Perry in the 29, and Derek Lemke in the 35 to stay out. This trio holding out hope with 18 laps to go. But if it cycles through as it should, Brandon McKissick will have the race lead here from Pocono.
One thing we noticed here, by the way, is that towards the end of a longer run, White and Tinsley were not the fastest trucks at the racetrack. So they need to get past these guys soon and do it pretty damn quick, because otherwise they're not going to do too well towards the end of a run here. So this is going to be the change, I think, in how this whole thing plays forward.
And now I also got to think as well, that, I mean, the tire difference is not as large. We've seen before on other ovals in round 1 that maybe you can stretch it out 4 or 5 laps and maybe even 10 depending on your fuel situation. As Derek Lemke comes down pit road, it leaves Dustin Johnson, Trevor Perry out first and second as the field to come around back to turn 1. Your net race leaders is that at this point the tire difference is only 1 lap. So if you're Parker White, if you're Wyatt Tinsley, all these guys that came in that lap right after the guys behind them did, they're probably going to even out here, especially given the fact that White's going to be in dirty air. He's going to be in traffic. Same deal for the machine of Tinsley in the 11. He's been in clean air the entire race. Now he has to deal with traffic for basically the first time all race long. How do they adapt, and how can they find the speed? And you made a really good point. They weren't the fastest trucks in that last part of the run. They were just kind of falling back. McKissick and company started to put the heat to the rear end of their machine. So I think this call was worth making. The undercut by 1 lap puts McKissick out by half a second. Trevor Perry, Dustin Johnson still yet to pit, but when they do, in the final 16 laps, McKissick will try to hold on for his first race win of round 2.
Yeah, no, it's going to definitely make things a bit more interesting as we go towards these next races here, but this is going to shake up what we've been seeing so far, especially compared to what we saw there with the last round in Ohio. We're going to see some oddball results here. I think it's going to change nearly every race with what we're going to see in this thing, because we've got so much dynamically different tracks.
Also to note, there is a bit of a discrepancy between your leaders and the net race leaders that are third on back. We saw the main leaders come around lap 30, 31 on a stint. Trevor Perry, Dustin Johnson on 24 and 22 laps into their stint, respectively, as they come into turn 1. Trevor Perry trying to catch up to Dustin Johnson for the lead at the moment. He's remained even with him around that 1.4 second gap, but they have a little while before they get to pit road. And 17 or so seconds, 18 between your leader and Brandon McKissick, I think is a little too large to overcome just on the racetrack alone, unless you have some mistakes out of the top 2, but they're going to be out a little while longer, so it's going to have to wait if you're McKissick and company. Here is Michael Cozy Jr., or not Michael Cozy Jr., this is Christian Peterson, the Logitech GLCC Sports trucks. They all look the same these days. Brandon John Kohler to the inside, and Garrison Hogan leading the trio. This is 14th on back.
It certainly is, and keeping themselves moving, going on the racetrack as we come through, and it's looking pretty strong right now for these guys in the front, because it can go great trucks with great performance, and I think we're going to see Johnson and Perry pitting in very soon. I think they've been hoping for a caution, maybe, to keep themselves in track position, but right now it's a strong grouping, and it's McKissick, Hogan, Therese. White's moved up a little bit here, so I just want to keep an eye on. He's got in front of Collins, so they are coming on, but slowly.
Yeah, they're trying to pick up some speed, but now I got to ask here, Rachel, if you're these guys that pitted later, how do you adapt here? Of course, you are in the pack here, so you're not completely out of it, but is there anything you can try to do differently here in the last stage of the race to catch up to Hogan, to catch up to Therese, to catch up to the gap to McKissick? Is there anything you can try to do alternatively to get around and command the field like they did in the first stint of the race?
I don't know. It's going to depend what they can really pull out of this thing, because again, we saw them lagging towards the end of the run, so they're going to have to do it now and fight to defend it. Otherwise, they're not going to reach them, I don't think.
So here's on board with Parker White, the multi-time winner in round number 1. Picked up 2 wins. His first one came at Bristol, second one at Charlotte, and behind a fellow round 1 winner, Santiago Therese, who won at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And that race came down to strategy. And Brandon McKissick, he's won a couple of races in round 1 as well. He was one of the most dominant and at one point led the point standings in round 1 out of the hundreds of drivers that went out to attempt to make it into round number 2. And I think now we may have a potential fight for the net race lead, Rachel, because don't look now, Boyd Hogan, the Reaper Sim Speed Lab car, the truck rather, the number 2, is picking up the pace, and he's starting to put the pressure on that 17.
Yeah, he absolutely is, and he's going to want to get himself going. In fact, they're going to want to do exactly what White and Tinsley did and get pushing. Start to make a gap here, start to push, because if they're not careful, White will be coming on here. Now, one truck's looking awful big in the mirrors.
And Hogan, if he could just be there in the mirror, I think that will work. Maybe pressuring McKissick to make a mistake. We've seen a lot of guys route that right front, especially out of turn 2, that tunnel turn at the far end of the speedway. So if there's any place where McKissick can make a mistake and where that number 2 machine of Hogan can catch him at his worst, it may be there, but turn 1 and turn 3, we noted the triple-headed beast anywhere can strike you at the right moment. Parker White holding strong behind the number 8 machine of Santiago Therese. Coming down to the final 11 laps of this race, we have still yet to see Dustin Johnson and Trevor Perry come down pit road. We do know that they do have to pit before this race is over, or else I don't believe they're going to make it on fuel at all out of turn 3. Johnson and Perry have stayed out another lap. We continue to watch everybody in the net race lead on back. Still single file, nobody wanting to strike just yet.
They got to be hoping for a caution. There's no reason to stay out this long. I don't think they've got much chance otherwise. From 22nd to 32nd, they're hoping for something here for a freebie to get into track position, but it's sticking right now, and I think if we do get a caution, we get two guys who are potentially slightly slower than the leaders on a restart. That could cause a big checkup, which could be problematic. So, we'll see. But Tinsley's coming on here. He's making a move on the 9 as well now. That's from Collins. Let's see what he can do to get forwards here. But I'm seeing White looking at Tires, and he's licking his lips. He's hungry for this one.
You know, I'm thinking here with the likes of Perry and Johnson, with them pitting so late with 10 laps to go, obviously the time is going to run out as Collins gets way loose coming out of the tunnel turn. It'll open things up here for Wyatt Tinsley to go to the inside, but he backs out. But for Perry and Johnson, they're going to pit rather close to the end of this race, but the tires are going to help. They're going to have that set that gets them so much more grip to these guys that have already run about 10 or so laps in their stint respectively. They're coming around to the start finish line for their 10th lap on the stint. So if these guys come in for service now, they'll lose time and obviously fall out of the race lead, but they'll have the tires to their advantage and they can pierce their way into the field. And I think this late call might work, especially for Trevor Perry there, who had to deal with the whole lack of rig situation and driving around with the Charlotte Esports Hub in there and one of their next level racing rigs, and streaming on twitch.tv/PuckVanick. He might have a good outlook here and get some good points coming out of Pocono. That was Parker White getting around Santiago Tires. So here we go, Rachel, finally pushing the issue into the final 10.
Oh, some action around Cozy Jr. actually. I spotted on the track here. Kerner, King, and Cozy Jr. are getting real snuggly down there through the tunnel turn. Heading up towards 3 now, but this is the sort of recipe that leads to a problem sometimes. Perry and Johnson, I think, are a good spot here, because if they have to pit, everyone else is going to too, because they've gone more than 10 laps. I don't think anyone's staying out on 10 lap old tyres. Not for a restart. That'll get Spin City. Like, you see people on, exercise bikes and gyms where they all do spin class, and everyone's just hammering away on the exercise bike going nowhere. Yeah, they'll be doing the same thing. They'll be tyres, they'll be sideways. They won't be facing forwards. I've seen old tyre restarts at Pocono, and they're never pretty, especially the truck.
I've seen old tire restarts on a lot of tracks, and most of the time they don't work, but I think in this situation, with the hot track temp and how slick it's been tonight from Pocono, even on fresh rubber, as Cozy shows a little bit of that, whips it sideways, but does get the spot on Eddie Kerner. If you stay out on old tires, good luck to you. You're going to have to really reel the race truck, and more often than not, you're going to lose so much grip that the advantage that you had by staying out in track position isn't really going to be worth it. Obviously, a caution does not come out into the final 7, so we still have our eyes peeled for Johnson and Perry to come down pit road that one time and for everybody else to stay out. Eddie Kerner, you saw him in a battle with Kyler Wynn. They have simmered through, but Kyler Wynn peeked back to the inside. Brandon McKissick, there you watch him in the 17. Still your net race leader into the final stretch of this Pocono Raceway event in race number 2 of round number 2 in the eNASCAR Road to Pro Qualifying iRacing Series. It would be a huge win for Bobby Dale Earnhardt Legacy Esports team. Boyd Hogan trying to follow in his footsteps, and they're approaching some traffic up ahead, and that's second place Trevor Perry, so that may put something into perspective as well.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And it's 3 wide up for the back. 21, I think. Oh, got a little bit of wiggling in 3, a little bit for the back. 3 wide deep in the track, but trying to keep themselves tight. Oh, this is getting a little bit clustery as we look up just ahead. It's 23 of Hogan with Forkingham. And I think we're seeing in there as well the 34 truck of Wynn, who just got past that lap by. Keeping themselves together now, but some people are already trying in these last moments, and it could make things interesting. As up the track at the front, 29 has gone high. Perry, he's getting past now. He's going to be a lap down at this point. No, he's not a lap down. He's just dropping positions here. So he's actually possibly going to get a net definite gain on his position where he can hang on to this thing. So if he can stay out of fuel, then that's the question.
This is going to hurt, though, the guys that are trying to get by him, and especially out of the tunnel turn. That's going to hurt the exit for Santiago Tires, who did lose some ground on the likes of Wyatt Tinsley and company up ahead. You just watched on the back straightaway Boyd Hogan was trying. He was aiming for a move there on McKissick and looked low, trying to see, all right, do I have enough momentum and space to do it? Obviously, space is a yes, but momentum was a no. There's a caution, and it's Trevor Perry around out of turn 3, and that's the caution they were waiting
not how you
for.
do it.
But
yeah, that's not how you get the
caution. So no.
Yeah, that's not how you get the caution you wanted. This is great for Dustin Johnson. Hello, hi, I'm the race leader, and everyone's pitting. And this is going to be a green-white checker, I think.
I think you're right. As you watch the replay out of turn 3, I talked about the difficulty of working through the traffic on the older tires, and it was Dalton Collins on the rear end of Perry's machine, hugging that yellow line in turn 3, got into the rear end, and that was more than enough to send Trevor Perry around for a quick 360. I don't believe he was hit any more than that one time, so the whole field did a solid job of getting around. They split the difference there. And a huge avoidance, I think, by Brendan John Kohler, who pretty much swerved to the inside to get out of it. But Trevor Perry involved in the spin. Here's a look from Kohler's machine. This is behind Kyler Wynn, who had seemingly gone through somewhat of a free fall after trying to pass Eddie Kerner a couple laps back. He watches the spin, the smoke arises. Watch this. Wow.
Like a ninja, vanished. That was a great avoidance by him.
Between that.
Oh yeah, no, that's just luck at that point. I think fate was in his favor.
So yes, Trevor Perry was second at the time of a couple laps ago, and then got passed by Brandon McKissick and company. Obviously, with the tire deficit, Perry goes around. That's a tough scenario there for the driver of the 29. But like you said, Rachel, this is the perfect situation if you're Dustin Johnson. This. With the 4 sets that these guys were given at the start of the race, they do have, obviously, those extra sets to burn for this last restart. We'll see, obviously, if second on back comes down, but we should expect them to. And if Dustin Johnson can get a good enough stop to stay out front, this could be Dustin Johnson's race to win after starting 22nd. And that would be an unbelievable call.
I think they've all got a spare set left. I think at minimum they've all got a spare set of tires left, so... Interesting one here, and I think someone might be out of fuel. Trevor Perry, no, he could have been out of fuel in the last corner. That could have been why he lagged back so hard in the 3. Someone just suggested that in chat, and it actually might be right. He might have just been on fumes here, hoping to go in this lap, but just not quite had it to the moment. But here they'll come. This will be a decisive pit stop, especially between the likes of White, Tinsley, and McKissick and Hogan.
You know, I question, I think, if Trevor Perry was that far down in turn 3, I think he was probably deciding to pit at that time. It's just that Dalton Collins was just behind him and then gave the tap and spun him around. Dustin Johnson enters his stall, and here's the rest of the field to follow as well. McKissick going in, Hogan in, Parker White in, your pole sitter, White Tinsley in as well, Agnell Phillip. There are the jacks lifting on the right side, and we should see some calls for the left side as well. Here comes Dustin Johnson out of pit lane. And here he'll come. He'll try to chase out. I think Agnell Phillip may beat him there. And he will. Agnell Phillip to the race lead out of pit road.
Well, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting call. And it could be huge.
2 tires for Agnell Phillip. I said it earlier on in tonight's race, where in the Cup car and even in the other stock cars on the service, at Pocono, you can replace the rights and keep the lefts on worn, and the truck will still be fast, and this may be a call that could get Agnell Phillip to victory lane. Boyd Hogan, Dustin Johnson and company, they all took 4 tires and I think some fuel. I'm not sure whether fuel was really a concern there, but did take tires on the stop. White Tinsley has fallen back to 4th. He did beat Parker White out of pit road, so that is a good thing, I guess, if you're talking about a little team battle between them throughout tonight. But Parker White will have to start from P6 on the restart. And it'll all be up to Agnell Phillip. I knew, Rachel, I think with this caution being so late in the race, somebody was going to do something to differentiate themselves. And it was Agnell Phillip brave enough to do it, to try and get his first win in round 2.
Man, I just can't wait for this restart. This is going to be... okay, hang on. Take the Alamo. Take Vicksburg. Take Idrang Valley. And take, what else am I thinking? Gettysburg. Mix them all up in a barrel. and a little dash of Hamburger Hill, and we're about to see a bloodbath.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a big mix. And I don't think I wholeheartedly disagree with you either. I think now that we're in the final laps, we're going to get a restart with 2 laps to go. We do have, again, like I said at the top of the show, 3 green-white checkered attempts to finish this race if we need it. Remember the Coke Series race on Tuesday night? I think they exhausted all 3 of their attempts, and it took a finish in the 3rd and final attempt. And that great photo finish between Zach Novak and Casey Kerwin. So we do have some more time if we get a caution before the white flag is displayed. And we will have Agnell Phillip at the helm of the ship, trying to weave to his first race win of round number 2 on 2 fresh Goodyear Eagles on that right side. Boyd Hogan will be on the outside. In second, it'll be Dustin Johnson. I think he still likes this call, even if he didn't come out of pit road on the race lead. He'll be 3rd. Wyatt Tinsley, your pole sitter, will be 4th. Parker White in 5th. Brandon McKissick will be P6. I think it's the other way around. Parker White on the outside. He is 6th. Brandon McKissick lines up the top 5. It's Dalton Collins, Santiago Tires, Kevin King, and Daniel Falkingham, rounding out your top 10 as they come out of turn 2. They will enter the long corner turn 3, and they will see Barney the Flagman displaying what could be our final green flag of tonight's race here from the Pocono Raceway. So Phillip will have to hold on entering turn 1, and the whole field will try to scurry away from him, take the race lead away, and run for a checkered flag here from the Pocono Mountains. The pace car will make its trip down to pit road, and it's all up to Agnell Phillip. His discretion on the restart. I see a couple of drivers moving down low to anticipate. Boyd Hogan trying to as well, but Agnell Phillip jumping to the gun first. 2 laps to go from Pocono.
It's going to be a big one. They're 5, 6 wide. Oh my God. 6 wide. And Pocono, not in Indy cars, in stock cars. What? Oh, this is not going to go great. They're 3, 4 wide back in the pack through 1. This is insane.
They are 4
How did they
wide.
make it?
I'm not sure. They were 4 and 3 wide coming out of turn 1, and now here comes Boyd Hogan. A run out of the first corner to give him space down low into the tunnel turn for the race lead.
Oh, he's doing this thing. Boyd Hogan is looking for this opportunity here to make this thing stick. And I'm yelling, and it's nearly 4 in the morning, so that's a really dumb idea on my part. But, oh man, this thing is working out. Boyd Hogan is running away right now. He wants nothing to do with this pack of lunatics behind him. This is like Jack Sparrow running away from the cannibals on the beach. Keep going, Hogan. Don't stop.
And they're side by side for 3rd. Agnell Phillip trying to hold on for dear life. Wyatt Tinsley, your pole sitter, trying to give him a push on the outside. McKissick trying to fend himself down low. And it's Dustin Johnson who's broken away for 2nd. They're 3 wide as Tinsley gets pushed off the racetrack in turn 1. Parker White trying to weave through the middle and clear himself on the outside. But Boyd Hogan with 2 more corners to go to hold off for his first win in round 2. Gap up to 3/10 of a second coming out of the tunnel turn. They're still 3 and 2 wide throughout the mid-pack. Remember, this is all for significant points going into Michigan. They'll spread out once again, but they'll enter the final corner for the final time here in Pocono in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Boyd Hogan clears Agnell Phillip on the late race restart and comes out of turn 3 to get his first win. Boyd Hogan wins from Pocono.
I just want to say that not a single truck wrecked on that green-white checker. That was the most chaotic thing I have ever seen since a backwards Bristol restart, and oh my gosh, they all made it. This is why this is Road to Pro, not C fixed. If that was C fixed, it'll be dead.
I couldn't contain it either. I'm going to tell you honestly here. 5, 6 wide. I told you that video of the Indy cars at Pocono, when they went 6 wide, the stock cars can do the same thing.
You expect that. You expect that out of Indy cars. They have acceleration, they have torque, they have grip, they have downforce. I expect to see the camera down low looking down towards turn 3 as they come out for a restart in an IndyCar race at Pocono, and I expect to see the entire width of the track full of I don't expect to see it in the Truck Series that deep as well.
The magic of racing here at Pocono, when you have that much space, you can make those moves happen, and they were 4 wide, 5 wide into turn 1, and somehow they made it work. The whole field is clean, but it's Boyd Hogan in the spotlight. The whole field going around and congratulate him at the end of it. And the two machine, the Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, will burn it down on the front straightaway. His first win of round 2. And this is going to mean wonders on the point side for the Bobby Dale Earnhardt Legacy Esports truck going into Michigan International Speedway. Dustin Johnson, remember him staying out and being first at the time of the last yellow. He clears for second, could not catch Hogan for the win, but the strategy call works for Johnson. It pays off. Brandon McKissick had a lot of speed all race long. He finishes in third, Parker White in fourth, Wyatt Tinsley fifth. Your top two for a good amount of this race could not get back up to the very front after the pit strategy call. But Rachel, what a win out of Boyd Hogan. That's as clutch as you can get, getting around Agno Phillip on 2 tires and breaking away for the win.
That's crazy. What a green white jacket. They just made the Coke series look like amateurs. And they had 3 green white jackets. These guys managed to keep that clean and race that hard. That was insane. One of the best finishes I've seen in this Road to Pro season.
I think we got to put it up with the likes of Kansas, where we saw Tucker Minter get around Daniel Buttafuoco for the race win. There are a lot of memorable moments in round 1, and I think this is our first big memorable moment of round number 2. A stellar finish under a normal organic green-white checkered restart. We didn't step into any attempts at all. We had a natural restart with 2 laps to go, and it's Boyd Hogan who gets out front in the final laps and takes the win after starting in 4th. Dustin Johnson, again, talked about his strategy call in the last half of the race, stayed out, and we were expecting them to come down pit road, and they were going to give way for Brandon McKissick for the lead. Then the timely caution came out for Johnson, came down pit road, came out of it in P3. He ends up second. Brandon McKissick, we talked about him being fast. He was going to be the net race leader at the end of this one if a caution did not wave, but he ends up rounding out your top 3. We'll try to talk to all 3 of them before we end our coverage tonight on Podium Esports. Parker White, Wyatt Tinsley, got to give credit to their speed tonight, and I think Parker White, after the win at Mid-Ohio, definitely not disappointed with a 4th place finish here from Pocono. Wyatt Tinsley picking up dramatically. I think he's going to like the performance here as well. A big points gain after rounding out the top 5 here tonight. Santiago Tires finishes in P6, exactly the same place where he started this race. Agno Phillip, who made the 2-tire call, but held on as much as he could not stay up front, but finished in P7. So I think still a worthy call out of Phillip to finish in the top 10. Garrison Hogan is in the top 8. Kevin King will be 9th. And Tommy Gossett, Rachel Whiteford will round out your top 10.
Yeah, 20th tonight is going to be Daniel Folkingham we got Michael Cozy Jr. just behind him. Eddie Kerner 13th with Daniel Smallwood in 14th. Christian Pedersen in 15th. Brendan John Kohler in 16th place. Matt Fokapa in 17th. Kylo Wynn in 18th. AJ Stravato in the 19th spot. Dan Love in 20th. And Daniel Nanny in 21st. Alex Bergeron 22nd, Jake Nichols 23rd, Dalton Collins in 24th, and Connor Horn in 25th.
We'll look to the rest of the field. Derek Lemke was involved in a crash in a turn 2. He finishes tonight in 26th. Drew Freenarge had some struggles near the end of the race. He finishes in 27th after starting 25th. Justin Knobloch, we saw him get turned by Daniel Folkingham coming out of turn 3 on the front straightaway. Could not pick it up, unfortunately, near the end. He finishes 28th. He is the last truck, rather, on the lead lap. The first truck 1 lap down is Trevor Perry, who was just trying to hold on and then got turned by Dalton Collins to bring out our last yellow and then ran out of fuel, had to tow it to pit road. That's where he finishes tonight's action. Ryan Doucette in the 21. Not a big night for Doucette. He finishes 30th. Omar Diallo fell out. I think had some connection issues glaringly in the mid portion of tonight's race. He finishes 31st. Thomas Keane, he was involved in a caution tonight. He ends up 40 laps down in 32nd. It is a big hit for Seth the Merchant, who finishes 33rd after starting 7th tonight. Colton Salek and Brian Blackford, 34th, 35th. The final ones in this full truck field from the virtual Pocono Raceway. And we will turn our attention to Pocono Victory Lane, where we are finally caught up with the number 2 of Boyd Hogan getting his first win in round number 2 of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. Boyd, walk us through the final restart and coming out of pit road. You had the call there, holding your own behind Brandon McKissick. You guys were going to be the net race leaders. Then the caution comes out. What was going through your mind? And just take us through the restart for the win.
Stress and anxiety, and a whole lot of negative thoughts, honestly. It was That was wild. Didn't want it to end like that. Obviously, I thought we were just gonna close it out there with Brandon, myself, and Parker and Wyatt, which was I mean, I gotta thank those guys for working with me throughout the whole race there. That made it go by a lot easier, honestly. So thanks to those guys. Yeah, the last restart, it was really just. I thought I was in a bad spot coming off of one, because I thought Dustin was going to get enough of a run on me, and honestly, I expected Agnell to block. So thanks to him that he did it. I don't even know, man.
This checkered flag moment, obviously a big one here from Pocono in the clutch final stages of tonight's race. But just give us an outlook of how it was overall. I mean, your truck definitely very fast. There's no doubt about that. But you were stuck in dirty air, stuck in traffic most of the race. I know a couple of cautions came out as well that broke up what could have been a long green flag run to the finish. So give us the experience of what it was like driving the truck, how the setup felt, and just how this Pocono Raceway changed over time in the race, especially with the super hot track temp we started with.
Yeah, the first of all, the setup was amazing. Honestly, it has been all year, pretty much everywhere we've gone. We felt like we're at least had competitive enough speed to go win, and it was kind of in the driver's hands, and that's really all you can ever ask for. And honestly, our team's always been really, really good about that. And so thank you to Chris Hill, Randall Falks, Jared Crawford, everybody who works on the e trucks here at Legacy Sports. Um, they yeah, the truck was hooked up. It was the hotter the track, the better in our case because it handled so good. So yeah, it was pretty much just trying not to get wrecked early on and then capitalize at the end, and we were able to do it. So thank you to everybody at Legacy. Thank you to Blackstone Management, Champion, Power Equipment, Green Mountain Grills, Reaper Speed Lab, Cincinnati. Everybody who was part of the squad over there, and thank you guys for putting on the show like you do.
So it was P7 in the point standings going into tonight, and obviously it will be much higher with this win from Pocono. Now that you've got this win and this momentum, how are you going to try to ride that wave for the rest of round number 2 to get into contender?
Um, I mean, really just still taking it week by week. I really didn't expect as much out of tonight as we got. With it being kind of as draft locked as it is, I was probably one of the most pessimistic guys on the team about it. Wasn't looking forward to it. Expected to qualify about 30th and surprise myself a little bit in Q, and then, I mean, Q is so big in these races that as long as you can qualify up front, everything else goes so much smoother. So it's really just trying to hit on Q these next few weeks, and honestly, I was expecting to have to use my drop either tonight or at Michigan, so that's that's still probably the thought, but definitely not stressing like we were.
Well, the drop week is not going to be assessed whatsoever here tonight from Pocono. An astounding win after getting around Agno Phillip on that last restart, restarting in P2 on the outside of row number 1. You get your first win in the second round of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. On behalf of our team here at Podium Esports, Boyd, I want to send you a huge congratulations on the win from the Tricky Triangle, and of course, wishing you and your team the best of luck as we move toward Michigan and the rest of round 2. Enjoy the win tonight.
Thank you, sir.
That's Boyd Hogan in his number 2 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, who gets to victory lane and wins in a great organic green-white checkered restart here from the Tricky Triangle. We unfortunately do not have Dustin Johnson in either of our waiting rooms, so we'll turn our attention to P3. Brandon McKissick, who's caught up with our very own Rachel Whiteford.
So it has, Brandon. Busy race for you guys. It was the second pack for most of this thing, and then you guys pitted early to bring something interesting in this one. What was the decision there?
Just to pit a lap earlier and just take the lead because I saw that we were way faster than what they were long run, and I knew that if we took the lead, I would have Boyd too. Boyd and I would have a decent shot to win and hold them off. And if it weren't for that unfortunate caution, I feel like that's exactly what would have happened. But it is what it is.
What were you thinking about the two guys going for a hope for a caution strategy up ahead of you?
It was smart because it usually happens anyway. But it was just unfortunate that one of them was part of the caution. I wouldn't really say it's all their fault, but it's just really unfortunate. Dustin definitely benefited from the call, though. It's not a bad call because it usually happens that way at Pocono.
Yeah, it certainly does. But either way, top 3 result here is going to be good for the points in this rather topsy-turvy round 2 here we have. Is there any race you're looking forward to and not looking forward to in this one before we head to the end of it?
I'm just afraid for Lucas Oil because it might be a wreckfest, and then the Bristol Dirt because I'm bad at dirt, at least as of now. But the other tracks, I feel like I can squeak out a good finish. So I'm just looking to survive each week, week in, week out. That's my main goal everywhere.
Seems like a nice, nice, safe strategy there, to be fair. So not a bad one to go for. Anybody like to give a shout out to or thank?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out Legacy Esports. The truck was amazing the whole week. It was a winning truck for sure, without a doubt. I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting and just V-Speed for being on my truck. And then that's about it tonight.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Brandon McKissick coming home today in 3rd. Kenneth?
So Brandon McKissick rounds out your top 3. Again, since we don't have Dustin Johnson here with us in the waiting room, we'll bring in the next driver up, P4, and the driver who started 2nd tonight, Parker White, coming fresh off of the win at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Of course, welcome, Parker. Congratulations on the P4 finish. How is this race? I know after the win, a lot of momentum, and I think tonight showed the same. You had a lot of speed in your Toyota Tundra, and it showed throughout the race. I know it wasn't the win, but give us your thoughts about this P4 finish tonight from Pocono.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier to finish 4th to back up my win at Mid-Ohio. I was honestly really surprised with our speed right off the start because in the C Opens we had kind of struggled with, or not necessarily struggled, but everyone had been closer to us. So I was surprised that Wyatt and I were able to, I think, get out to like a 6 or 7/10 gap to Brandon there. So we got a yellow and that stacked things back up. And eventually we had to green flag stops and we let all the legacy guys go a lap before us. We didn't intentionally do that. They just undercut us. So we pit the next lap, and right from there, we just started to go back through the field. Well, not through the field. I was able to get around Santee, but after that, I don't really think I could have got around Boyd. So I was completely fine with where I was, and we got that caution, and I honestly didn't know whether we would pit or not, just because I didn't know if like the back half of the field would wreck. But we did end up pitting, and then Dustin had the strategy call to stay out, and that was really good call by him. And then Agnell took 2, so I was able to eventually get around him. And yeah, a good race overall and a good points day for us.
And of course, I'll turn my thought here to you and White Tinsley. I know you both have raced a lot, not only on the official side of things of iRacing, but a lot of leagues. I've seen you guys work together here, and it looked like the tandem was in perfect play. How was it to work with Wyatt through the first stage of the race and just try to basically be, it's an us versus the world situation throughout most of the event?
Yeah, it was really good. It helped me a lot knowing that we were pulling away because I really felt like I was losing a lot of time in turn 1 trying to check up for him. We both ran different setups, so I don't know if it was just lacking in turn 1 for him. But eventually it came to him, and we were able to pick up the pace on the second run. But yeah, like you said, it was nice to work with him. We got the pull, so I'm happy for him that he could do that, and hopefully we can do it more at Michigan.
And yeah, Michigan up next. I know you came off of the win at Mid-Ohio, a 4th place finish, and I believe for the most part, this should keep you in the overall points lead going into the rest of this round 2 for the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying series. Any notes that you could take moving forward? I know Michigan is going to be big. IRP is going to be a random interesting track, a unique one, Darlington, Bristol Dirt, and then Texas to round us off for round number 2 on late September. Anything you're looking forward to or any notes you're taking for those tracks specifically?
I'm looking forward to Michigan just because that's going to be a draft race. It should be pretty fun, and I feel like testing will be fun just to trim the truck out and find as much speed as possible. And then IRP will be fun too. We had a good setup for that earlier this year, and that'll be fun to work off of. And then hopefully I can get myself pretty high in points for Bristol Dirt because I want to have a lot of fun there. And Texas to end out the season. I've been good there in the past, so hopefully I can be good there again.
Well, definitely for certain a positive first start to round number 2 and a positive second race here from the virtual Pocono Raceway. Parker, on behalf of our team, of course, thank you for taking the time to talk with us after finishing P4. We send you a congratulations on your top 5 finish and wishing the best of luck heading into Michigan.
Yep, thank you, Kenneth.
So Parker White is our last driver to interview here tonight. He rounds up P4 again. Unfortunately, we could not get Dustin Johnson, but would have loved to hear his opinions on that call, staying out, getting the caution at the opportunistic time, and holding on for P2 behind your eventual race winner, Boyd Hogan. Rachel, it's our time to let out that sigh of relief and get our final thoughts here from the tricky triangle. And like you see it on the feed there, what turn 4? Some people would say we have 5 here, but that's a different rabbit hole for a different day. Arguably, I think one of the best last restarts we've ever had in the series to date so far. 5 wide into turn 1. Everybody cleared each other. Everybody stayed clean. But the focus on Boyd Hogan at the front. A clutch performance at the end, getting around Agno Phillip and getting his first win in round 2.
Yeah, it was crazy. Amazing Pocono race, a typical Pocono race if you want to say that, but it definitely provided some great action and some really interesting strategy calls. So we got to see a strategic Pocono race rather than a wreck fest, which was really nice. And wow, some great exciting results at the end.
Very exciting indeed. Also, to give you an update for those who are not watching the FDF_GG, their coverage of the even split of the Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. It was Jonathan Delaney getting his win there here at Pocono and having a lot of momentum from there. He wins our even split. And if you want to learn more about the growing world of eNASCAR and all its happenings, you can scan that QR code at the bottom right of your screen, or you can also visit eNASCAR.com. You can sign up today to get all the latest news and updates from Road to Pro, the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, and much, much more. It's 2 weeks before we return for eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series action, and we'll be live from the Irish Hills of the Michigan International Speedway. You'll find that August 4th, 9 p.m. Eastern, and of course, same place as always, twitch.tv/Podium Esports. So for Gary Sexton and John Theodore at Podium Esports, for our producer this evening, Ryan Bauer, for our camera builder, Dougie Beard, our overlay builder, Michael Hall, Derek Watson and Garish Mashburn for all of the statistics, for Cameron Albanon covering our social media tonight, and for my colleague in the booth, Rachel Whiteford, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying congratulations to Boyd Hogan on the win tonight from Pocono, and thank you so much for watching our coverage of race number 2 in the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. We'll see you over at Michigan, but until then, we're heading over to Malik Ray's channel running some NIS from Pocono. He finished 7th in the Coke race. We'll see what he can do in the final laps of that one.